slowly starting to feel like summer here.
It's
Yep,
actually
for us,
not that warm today. It's just this room doesn't get any air. So it's
Oh yeah, but just for isolation. Gotcha.
oh, and we're live.
we're live. All right, everyone, welcome to
Ah,
From the Ground Up podcast, a very special Memorial Day episode for our folks in the United States, which is kind of funny that we don't have someone from the United States on our national holiday, but that makes it all the more fun.
Yeah,
And plus, people were probably busy. I bet your
right.
U.S. folks would be like, I'm hanging out at a barbecue
Barbecuing,
drinking
yeah,
beers.
and why not get a Canadian that's actually not drunk off his mind on a holiday weekend, right? So, like, yeah,
There you
no,
go. And if you were a drunk Canadian, it would still be as fun. But
yeah, well, yeah. But yeah, thanks for having me, guys, and a happy Memorial Day weekend, by the way.
awesome, man. I appreciate you being here and thank yous. And before we get started, portcitypythons.com.
we have t-shirts available.
We have t-shirts available. We have we're slowly gaining products. So we are posting, we do have our springtails up there, which we did, and now we have created our own sphagnum moss. So if you want to check that out, I'll be slowly adding more products as we go along, but we're totally doing it, by ourselves in our living room, shipping out stuff like every day and walking to the post office and doing all the I don't know.
Fun stuff.
All the fun
I hear
stuff,
you, man.
doing all the legwork.
But
Oh yeah, I hear you.
no snakes available until probably July will be our first available clutches and everything. But we have 4 more clutches we're waiting on. I counted the other day. We have a total of 136 eggs, which is really exciting.
Which is probably like not a lot for some people.
A lot of people, but for us, that's amazing. I think we're gonna double our egg production from last year. So that's a big thing to us.
Totally, man. I totally get it. I can still to this day still remember exactly how it felt like when I had my first corn snake, my first snake ever. It was corn snakes, by the way. So yeah, no, never lose that, man. It's to this day, every little pip I see, every little tongue flick out of a eggshell there, it just brings you back.
I hope I feel the same way on the 135th as I do the
numbers
first.
don't matter, man. Numbers will just naturally grow depending on what you can do with yourself and or who you got helping you. But numbers is not something to really worry about at this point. And as long as your care is optimum, just go with it, man. Just enjoy it. It's where it's at now for me, especially. Like I try to define everything too much. I thought for a while then, try to make it too much of a science to kind of create it. And I just realized, there's a little art form to this too that I'm realizing. So yeah, letting animals is.
I've heard people say it's just as easy to keep 100 snakes as it is 1,000 because you have the systems in place to take care of them more properly. But
that's very true. Yeah,
I haven't had the pleasure of experiencing that yet.
I don't know.
You will have those systems, and then you will lose some systems because you will realize that in going further, you will need to lose some of them. Some of them make sense at certain times, and some of them don't. It's you're always evolving. You're always dynamic. It's nothing ever is stagnant, especially when dealing with nature, live animals, right? And during having a cycle too with breeding cycles and stuff like that. Everything's always changing every year, right? So, and every year gets better, man. So. At least hopefully that's the aim.
Yeah,
right?
So.
Yeah.
So I guess we should properly introduce you. And so we have Vanan, Canadian Ophidiophile. You may have seen him on Instagram, and you may have seen him. He actually just started making YouTube videos not too long ago, and that's how I first found out about you. I was super impressed that you put out your first video, and obviously you have the knowledge, and you also didn't look super awkward, and it was also produced and shot well. So I want to commend you on hitting those at least. It was an amazing video. So
I have to admit that I in a recent shift of events here with life and what I've had to do with my collection, I have slacked off on that, but it's still there. It's just a matter of reevaluating the system and creating a new system, and I'll be getting back to those again. So. We're not doing weekly videos. We've stopped it completely right now, but we will be getting back to it shortly. So,
yeah, and
I can't say it at any point either because right now priorities I got egg hatching babies, right? But that will be happening. So,
we feel you. Know exactly how you feel. So, how did you get started in reptiles? What first got you interested?
Oh man, I got to start way back, and I mean, the one man I have to thank for inspiring me is my dad. Really, my background, some of you may be able to tell, some of you will not be able to tell. I'm East Indian descent. My family, my great grandparents from India, but I was born and raised in Singapore, little small tropical little island off the tip of Peninsula Malaysia, Southeast Asia. Uh, my parents were in the 50s. Singapore was still not really quite developed and stuff like that. So, and when I was born in the well, it was actually late 80s, late 70s, sorry, 79. Jesus, why did I? When you get old enough, guys. But so when I was going that time, there was still a lot of places not really being developed yet and stuff. And my dad came from a kind of a village background, and he used to have like cobras and pythons come into his house. And my grandma, because of uh, my descent, part of the spirituality in Hinduism, some of them believe in snake worship too. You guys might have seen videos and stuff like that in nature documentaries. And my grandma was one of those people too. So it's very much a part of my family right from the start. And I didn't realize it as much, but I grew up hearing all these stories and all this, and of course, kids just gathering around and hearing the stories about pythons coming in and the cobras. And of course, kids weren't allowed to see these things at that time, right? But growing up, we heard these things, and the catch to that was in Singapore, it is and was illegal to own reptiles.
Oh, wow.
So we were never allowed to keep that. Yeah, it's just kind of a doesn't make any sense, but I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, so I never kept them. So it's always about in observing them in nature. So of course, as I was growing up and I was catching coyotes, versicolors off the trees, and like something to like little baby reticulated pythons and stuff. I found roadkill cobras. I've never seen a cobra myself. I wish I did because my dad would always tell me stories about king cobras. But anyways, that's another thing. All those animals I grew up loving, man, like the water monitors I used to catch and bring home. Of course, these are all pets I'd bring home, and mom would be like, "Get them out of here!" Right? So back up they went. But they were very short-term pets. But so that was basically growing up with that, man. And then when I came to Canada, when I moved with my family in my late teens, and of course, it's like I went to my first pet store because being an animal lover the whole time to see what's in a Canadian pet store, right? Like mind blown here with these animals and green tree frogs, and you've seen this little Singaporean guy just going, "Oh my God, it's like $9 to buy it!" Wow, like so there it was, right? My first chance, I got some money saved up, got myself a little setup there. I got green animals. Actually, I brought a tarantula. My first love, actually, I was a kid in Singapore. The ones I actually did get away with keeping were spiders. At around 6 or 7, around grade 1, kindergarten, I was a kid at school fence catching these little spiders and keeping them in containers. And in grade 4 or 5, I was selling them to friends in my classroom for like 50 cents each. And just because if people were like trying to get interested in this thing, right? So it became a thing, I guess. So anyways, entrepreneur back then even. But so anyways, so I got a tarantula first, and then just I don't know. It just didn't. My mind just kept going back like, yeah, but I've never had that. I've never had that. So I just went back, and I had to be the guy and go like, I'm sorry, can I trade this back because I didn't realize, but I had to be honest with myself, and of course, animals were the first pet that really intrigued me, and I still love them to this day. I wish I could have the time to deal with crickets and all that again. But yeah, it kind of started from then, little animals, and then green tree frogs, and then finally I was working with SPCA at the time. And I was also doing my vet studies. Not a vet now though. But there was a ball python that came into the shelter, and as we know, with most SPCA personnel, they're not really trained in reptiles. So as soon as they got a reptile guy, then they're like, "Hey man, can you help us deal with this thing?" So in dealing with it and all of that, they were like, stay at the shelter for a while, and they're like, "Do you want to just take this home, kind of thing? You want to adopt it yourself?" So long story short, I ended up bringing this ball python back home, but I was nervous as hell, man. Like I didn't want to touch this thing because I haven't really handled them as a pet, right? They were still like a wild animal to me, and so that was kind of a weird curve I had to deal with. I was so passionate about this thing, and I'm like looking at this thing in the tank, but still so nervous of picking it up and stuff. But of course, you got past that, and then, long story short, 4 or 5 snakes became. I'm doing a glade herp import for Florida water snakes and black masked racers, and I'm dealing with wild caught animals, and there you go, right? Long story short. So Yeah,
So
and it's just,
that's like an interesting group of animals because those are seen as like kind of throwaway, kind of if you go herping in Florida, you're going to find like 10 black racers and water snakes, like it's a very, very underappreciated thing over here.
I will be very honest. The reason why I ended up importing those from Glaze Herb of all things is because that's all I could afford at that time. Because I was delivering pizza still at that time, and I was just trying to feed this passion. I'm like doing this import by myself from Glaze Herb, right, from Canada at that time. So I had to be a little bit realistic about that. And I figured, well, did my research. Don't put your eggs into just a couple of animals like wild caught animals. You gotta take the chance of possibly losing them or dealing with a lot of parasites and so on and so forth. Right, we know all that now, but yeah, I was just trying to test that out, I guess. And yeah, I didn't do too bad. I thought actually rehabilitated. I did lose some along the way. I have to be honest about it. It's just part of the game, learning process too. And I did learn about medication, learning about deworming through the process. So it was very valuable. Learned about blister disease in water snakes. So much to learn when you just kind of. I mean, back then it was not a lot of tear sheets like they are. It's not like there were a couple of forums, but you kind of had to know people, and then you had to get the right guy to give you the right information. Otherwise, there's so much misinformation. And we're not as aware as we are now, right? Like as a collective community, as how we were compared to 20 years ago. But in part of that, it just made it interesting. And when you learn those lessons, you learn them forever, right? And you just, you learn them in a way that you just never forget it. And that's why you just build from there as you go on. Yeah. And to this day, man, never stop learning.
Yeah, I think that's really just the mark of a good keeper is that you never stop learning. I'm sure there's those guys out there, but those are the guys who eventually fall off eventually. And if you have passion about it, I mean, you're always learning just kind of by default, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly so from those water snakes, around what year was that?
Oh, that would have been 2001-ish.
So those water snakes, were you just like setting them up in water and doing things wrong?
Sort of. Actually, no, I didn't. I didn't put them in water. I did have a water dish big enough for them to soak, and I did a paper towel, all right, just to keep it all sanitary and stuff. And I did kind of have a makeshift rack system built up there with heat tape and stuff. Just like old school way, man. I just like IKEA shelving and stuff, right? But anyways, I had a little bit like electrical background there to put it together. Obviously, it wasn't completely, but it was. Sorry, what was the question again? I just want to make sure I'm answering the question.
Yeah, so just like the general husbandry when you first started out and kind of how you tweaked it for, say, a water snake or something that you've never kept.
Yeah, before. So when I started keeping on paper towel just to keep it sterile, right, and that is where my first thing I learned with racers and water snakes, or really a lot of colubrids that I keep. That just doesn't work. They're too active of an animal to keep them. I don't want to say ethically, but to enrich their lives, to actually not deprive them of the basic thing called the thermotactic response in snakes. You've seen snakes get a scatter on stuff like that. They just can't grip on stuff, especially colubrids that are active. That's why people say, "Oh, colubrids are messy," because that's what I keep things in substrate now. I've changed things along the way, so that's the one thing I learned about water snakes and racers at that time was paper towel, newspaper, stuff like that. Anything flat surfaces just don't work with colubrids.
And did you have even at that point? Did you have an inkling that you were like, this is what I want to do for a living, so I'm going to import a certain amount of them, sell a certain amount of them?
No, I never. There was never that kind of thought back then. No one never thought about money. Even the
Oh, we lost him.
I'm sure he'll come back. He's still a hog-nosed head. Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. I can see you.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Where are we at again?
You were saying back then, money wasn't really a factor. You weren't really thinking about that.
Yeah, there was really not that thought. And that towards the end too, when I got out of the hobby, I was basically really about sending my hatchlings to friends I had, and of course there was always a price there, for the pure ethics of it, and just to kind of keep like everyone happy kind of thing. But there was never a race to get more amongst most of the hobbyists, at least that I knew at that time. Um, yeah, I mean, there's of course I don't want to blame a species. A lot of people think I rag on ball pythons as a species. I don't hate the species at all, guys. It's not the species. It's what we did to the species, um, and we basically commercialized, the heck out of them, right? To the point that was, we put that in front of everyone else's eyes, and now we do have a section of these hobbies that's the main priority when they look at these animals. We can't deny that, right? We created that. But barring that, before that happened, it wasn't the main idea behind it. You didn't hear it as often as you do nowadays. The joke, inside joke, like, oh, I'm going to pay my mortgage with a couple of ball pythons. Like, no, let's just learn how to keep them alive first and feed them and deal with the headaches of feeding them, at first, right? So, anyways, that's how it was back then. It was a lot of it that was just kind of like new and learning, and it was just sharing information. And for me, it was not. I never looked at them as pets. It was more of a biology project. Just like, let's find out, let's learn about these things. And then a part of breeding it was to learn about the full reproductive cycle. About them and first-hand experience. I mean, like, how cool would it be to actually see a clutch hatch? I've been watching all these Nat Geo documentaries all my life and stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, to see that in front of you. And that's what it was. That was the driving force for a lot of us in the hobby at that time. We grew up looking at books. Bill loves pictures and these books that we'd go to libraries to just come back home and just carry all the way back with this book. Before the time of Google, it was crazy, man. It was wild. It was the Wild West. But it was beautiful in that sense because it was just fresh discovery. And then, of course, like when we had like new aspects of the world opened up, like when Asia opened up to us, like the Asian species started coming in, Madagascar species started. I remember with crested geckos, I had a wild-caught pair of crested geckos. I traded someone, I can't remember what it was, a wild-caught group of crested geckos. All right, straight up. Okay, so that was so awesome, guys. I mean, it was, mind you, I'm not really even that old. Those guys will go way back, even will tell you even cooler stories than that. But it was just this cool freshness about it all that was kind of seemed to have been lost along the way with people. One of the things too, of course, as much as the internet is great, and I'm not ragging the internet, it's wealth of information there. But the problem is we don't seem to have the right guidance to what is the right information is always the case, right? And that's
there's no filter. Yeah, there's no one filtering.
Exactly, right? Because I mean, it's all based on experience level, and because everyone has a voice on the internet, which is great, by the way. It also kind of makes it hard to filter out what's right and what's appropriate for you and what works for you and stuff too. So I find like what I'm trying to do, not really trying to do, but it seems to just be happening with my friends up here. Is like there's a mentoring thing that's going on that I always open myself up to people. It's like, message me, you've got questions. Even if you bought it from someone else and that breeder is not answering your questions, fine, I'll answer your questions, because I'm not putting myself out there, guys, because my inbox gets pretty full too sometimes. But seriously, at the end of the day, it's for the animal anyways, and it's about keeping that person interested in the hobby too. And that's what grows the hobby and keeps that passion. And that's what helps people get motivated to work on laws and legislation to protect us. That not just money. There's enough of a driving force there sometimes to a lot of people, but it's transient. It comes and goes. But that passion there, I always tell people. I know I've seen a lot of guys get into it hard. Second year, third year, they're just like, this is not working out. Incubator crashes. They lost this important snake. Blah blah blah. I did it. I lost a very important snake. I waited an extra year. It was a bull snake. I waited an extra year and to raise a really huge, thick as a pop can, like they used to say back in the day. A 6-foot animal and 6+6.5 roughly, and I got fully egg bound the first time I bred her, and eventually passed. I wasn't sure what I should go with. At that time, I was actually living in a rural area too, and the vet wasn't immediate right away, so I actually have to have like a 2.5-hour drive or 3-hour drive to get to a vet on rural roads.
Wow.
And then so I was, I had to at that moment I had to deal with it. And within a week, before I could actually get into a vet at that time, within a week she passed. I ended up actually waiting for her to pass the eggs, which at that point, of course, now in hindsight, maybe I should have manually aspirated the eggs and got them out and so on and so forth. Learning curve, as I said, right? But that killed it for me because I'm like, well, if I didn't breed this animal, it would still be alive. And I had conscience issues back then about it. But part of it I learned too is that in the wild, this does happen too. Maybe not with a high occurrence. Maybe there's things that we are doing that can alleviate that. Maybe there's something that I did that actually created that. So that's where I took it a different approach now, and then trying to tweak things. Let's learn why that's happening. That's what's happening, and what's making it happen.
Sorry, I totally just cut you off.
No, go ahead. I can go on a rambling here. But
I think that's a very interesting view to take. Because with us, like, obviously you were much more invested in this than I am. Like, this is your passion. I came in second.
She's looking at me, by the way, for the people who aren't looking for the
sorry,
the
you,
video.
Joe. Yeah. Sorry, you, Joe. This is your passion. And so when, like, a snake seems like a little sick, a little something, like, he takes it so heavily, way, way more than I do. And it's like, and I think it's something to remember that, like, this happens in the wild too. Like, it's not, yes, there's
something to say though.
But it's so interesting how much it affects you.
Yeah.
When a snake gets sick.
There's something to say about, like, the immediate action and worrying. And then there's also something to say with the, like, shit's gonna happen, forget about it, move on. But it's, like, very, very hard when you're very, very invested emotionally in the animals, unfortunately, that whether it's time, money, like, all of it.
It would be wrong if you didn't feel anything. Let's put it this way. It would be wrong if you told me you didn't feel that.
If you can raise a baby, 3 to 4 years to adulthood, that's something. I don't know. That's something to me. That animal is mine then, and it's very, very hard then to even move on with that animal at any point.
I understand the sadness and everything, but to not, psychoanalyze, every detail and every step that
you can't dwell on it,
right?
Also.
Like that you've done, that where the mistake or something could have happened. I think that's also important.
Well, yeah, you got to see if it's a husbandry issue, what's going on, feeding issue, like, and so.
Live and learn, brother.
yeah. So, Vanna, you said that you kind of lost a little bit of your motivation from that incident.
Yeah, I did. It completely killed it for me. I got rid of everything. I sent off my animals to my friends and stuff, and I stayed out of the hobby. And long story short, I just kind of put myself into living life and got into working and all that so on and so forth. But after I kind of got back into, I actually chanced upon a good friend of mine that actually moved back to a city where he was born from the past. And anyways, I ran into him. He opened up a reptile store in the town I was moving to, and then I bumped into him again. That kind of rekindled things again, and kind of owed it to him actually to kind of, use him along the way as my source to kind of get back these species, because he actually had now got a business now for himself. He was running 2 businesses at that time. Now he's actually got a frozen feeder business that I work with him for now. But yeah, so that kind of rekindled things again. I had access again. I was just in a better place in life again, and just. You're more mature. You're a little wiser. You learn your mistakes. You go like, maybe I was a little rash. Maybe I should give myself a chance. Or the passion is still the passion, man. You can. Once that's the same thing I say with my music too. Once you're a metalhead, always a metalhead. Once you're passionate about animal, once you're a dog person, you're always a dog person, so on and so forth, right? So I just kind of took that, and I just went back and I realized. I mean, with the losing animals, it's hard, man. I'll be honest with you. Any breeder that tells you that they don't lose animals is lying. Because just by the sheer number of animals that you do end up keeping, the odds are you're gonna lose babies. You're gonna be dealing with babies. You're gonna have to maybe cull, put down, or maybe take to the vet. So like it can be pretty nightmarish sometimes and overwhelming to someone who just expects this dream state of everything just being glamorous, like how it's portrayed on online or sometimes, right? And then I'm not trying to create a realism about it. It's just that. These things do happen. It's nature. It's up to us to see what we can do better for the animals. And I've always kind of looked to dog breeders for inspiration of a lot of things or tips and insight as far as how I want to conduct myself with snakes as a hobby or maybe as a business student or as a breeder, because there's an integrity that needs to be still retained in the hobby. That these are still living animals, that there's still variability with them. There's still, genetics, man. Genetics is not just about Morse, brother. It's about so many variables. It's not just traits that are linked to neurological issues and stuff. There's traits linked to lots of other things. And I swear there's traits linked to being feisty. Because I have probably the feistiest blood red corn snake line that I know. Every single baby that I've got 3 generations of them now, and every single baby that's come out, they're not bitey. They headbutt. It's so weird. They never relax. They're the complete opposite of corn snake. Feed response, I believe, is also something that's also genetic. And I mean, there's so many things about nature that we're still kind of just barely scratching the surface at, right? So, and I think, I mean, we can leave it to the scientists all we want to discover these things, but who's really taking the time to, for these kind of little things like that to discover, right? I mean, sometimes, yeah, when they go out, they discover natural habits, but sometimes some things are discovered in captivity, because you don't really ever get an animal comfortable enough in the wild in your presence to be able to do that. Or sometimes we didn't have the right gear. I mean, nowadays we got drones and other new equipment. We can get to areas that to help us with the documentary footage that we see nowadays. But there's still some things that's still being discovered in captivity in zoos and stuff like that too, right? So there's something we said about that. Private collections being a necessity when it comes to just kind of like a species bank. I see it as. I've heard of different projects also where they've actually gone back to private individuals. I think there's the Galapagos tortoises actually. They went back to private individuals actually to re-release baby tortoises back.
I believe there was a guy in Arizona actually, which is weird because you would not think that you would be able to breed galops in Arizona, but he had actually bred the only galops to ever be bred in captivity, I believe. Really? And it was a private keeper in Arizona. And I wish I knew his name and the facility because they deserve it.
Wow, that's great. Is that awesome? Yeah. So, there's still a need there, I mean, as much as people, I say people, I mean, the media and things like that portray that the pet trade's to blame with this wild population. I'm not going to defend the pet trade in that sense. There is an impact that is undeniable. But it's kind of there's a section of it that is a necessary evil that needs to happen because of what's happening out there. Because what we've created out there, there's a little bit of a onus on us to do something about it. Well, within our means, right? And that's the way I've always looked at it. I don't breed. I still don't feel. I mean, there is a certain commercial aspect to what I'm doing right now because it is part of my living right now. But in being part of my living, it just makes me better at what I do, also. But what was I trying to get at earlier? But yeah, just kind of keeping a passion, guys. I mean, just without actually getting into the money side of it, or even the statistics or data and writing down all. I used to write down every single shed for all my snakes. I used to still. I mean, my collection has grown a little bit now, but even at 150 snakes, I lost you guys there for a sec. 150 snakes, I was writing down every single shed, even for babies I was growing up. It was a lot of work. And so there's certain things, systems, like I said, I told you guys earlier about, just kind of dropped along the way, and but whatever you have to do to keep yourself passionate in the hobby is what you need to do. So,
yeah, I think that's a line that we are walking a lot as far as we want to give our customers like the most information that they could ever have, but we also need to get out of the snake room and sleep sometimes. So we can't document every single thing that a baby's done. Every time it goes to the bathroom or something. That would be great, but unfortunately, it's not feasible at this moment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but again, I mean, sometimes you might be able to do that now, but now I just recently had tried out. Actually, I got a Wi-Fi camera and I actually placed it in a tub with one of my speckled Kingsnakes. I just noticed that she was actually going through the lay box, and maybe there's a weather system coming in. And yeah, I actually caught on video. I didn't catch the full egg laying, but I caught palpitations and stuff like that. So I actually got to see for how long and how often palpitations were happening and stuff like that. So that was kind of neat to also observe, and also to know that, and I saw firsthand, the 24-hour window with oxytocin, because I did end up with the same female actually getting egg bound. I'm not sure whether because it was timing or I interrupted her. She was kind of a special case animal for me too. Are you guys still with me here?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I got her as an adult female already, and I was gonna guess her age, and I put her about 7, 8 years old. Um, I was trying to scramble to try to find a male, and of course, up here it's really hard, right? So I was eventually imported a pair, raised up a male, got old enough, bred him. I think there's a part of me is I believe in the theory that there's females that go too long without producing the first litter don't have the right muscles developed enough to help with egg laying during when it comes to time when they actually have contractions and oxytocin is going through the body and stuff. So um, I believe that's what happened that night. Sorry guys, I hit the mic there. And she's still currently holding on to the 2 eggs that she has left in her. I think what happened, she got tired out, and that's what it was. But I'm gonna keep feeding her, and she'll probably push them out here next little while. I've had that happen. I used to be pretty stressed out when females get egg bound. Of course, with my story before my female bull snake there. But I've learned over the years that sometimes it's just best to leave them alone and give them the opportunity to move things around internally. Give them space, give them the right heat and temperature gradient and stuff, and things will right themselves by themselves most times it seems like, and just by food and movement, peristalsis, it's gonna pop it out usually. So,
is there ever a moment where you're like, okay, so now I start to worry, or when does it?
Oh, the worry doesn't
end.
Bro. The worry doesn't end, guys. Like it does not end. I'm still worried. I'm like, as I'm talking to you guys, my eyes are going right there because she's right in that tub over there. No, of course I'm still worried. There's part of me still going like, oh, maybe I should not, right? But again, like I said, like with collections, being honest, I have this bunch of people to deal with now. It's 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 just something. It's just part of what you have to do. It comes to a point where you have to watch the animal. She's still eating. Her body tone's still good. Her activity levels are still good, right? So that's why I'm still kind of monitoring along the way. Anyways, you can't just leave them be. Too. You still have to keep an eye on that. If it ever comes to a point where if I see something change in her behaviors and stuff like that, and I'm checking her deck twice a day, especially now because I'm checking for eggs anyways, right? So if anything changes at all, of course I have to intervene and do something about it.
So I've heard a bunch of different ways that people have intervened, whether it's, palpating out or taking the syringe and popping an egg pretty much. What is kind of your preferred method of doing so if you have to?
I don't know. It's really hard because it's very, very case dependent. Like I said, I'll use this situation, for example. If it came to a point of, okay, she's starting to show signs of lethargy, for example, I would actually call a vet right away. I would actually try to, use drugs to actually reduce the stress levels, to actually look after what other issues are going down, why she's going downhill. There could be something going septic in there. I don't know. Could be calcium. I don't know. Let's find out those things first. Sometimes, it's easy to self-medicate and do all these things, but like I don't want to preach that either. But and part of it is some things that you can do that at home, but when it comes to things that could threaten the life of my animal, I usually, especially when I go like I'm not 100% sure what's going on, boom, gotta go to the vet.
Absolutely. I think most of the times we're kind of encouraged to use our own methods, and you learn it from someone on a forum or a Facebook group, and it
doesn't always the safest way.
True, but I mean, I'll have to be honest too, and I don't want to I'll probably receive backlash for this, but whatever. But I don't want to blame vets for this, but it's really, really hard to find good reptile vets.
That's also
This is not a thing that plagues the hobby, right? So I've had so much misinformation given to me, and I've heard from friends and stuff that just like, what? Really? Like things like, oh, that's like increase the humidity on your uromastics. Like, really? Because that's going to help it. Wow, that's going to help its RI. Like, so there's that there also, right? So when you got to kind of keep that in mind when you don't want to rush, and unless you have a good vet. I mean, I have a vet that's half decent. She's willing to learn also with my advice to the species, to specific advice I can give her. But she also, of course, has her technical background expertise too. So I try to use that as much as you can too. But use your vet, know your vet. If they're not open to learning with you and from you. I hate to say this, but I advise you to find someone that's more open-minded and that is because there's a lot of things that we're learning even in the hobby that changes. Drugs that used to work that we were like, whoa, those we can't do that anymore, or drugs that are okay with this species that will like straight up just kill this other species. So there is valuable information in the hobby that can be crossed over with veterinary medicine, and I believe in the future that can be symbiotic, working together somehow. But we'll see where that goes, right? So it's still young though. I mean, reptiles are still just branching in. I mean, granted, of course, bearded dragons are one of the most popular. I think the most statistically popular pet
Really?
now, or the highest number I think in U.S. households. Um,
I do not know that.
but yeah, I think they actually overtook dogs and cats. Or at least one of the top three, at least for most commonly kept animals. So,
That
um,
makes sense.
yeah, it's still but it's still there's a lot of commercialization that is happening that is helping bring it to the forefront with the hobby. So, like the big companies that we have in the hobby that are with the products that they have that pretty much make things plug and play and makes it less daunting for a beginner, to take on a species or take on just even keeping reptiles, right? So it's great though. I mean, being in it long enough here and then seeing the progress of the hobby and the evolution of it is great. Everything's so symbiotic and everything works just like how it does in nature. Actually, it does. You need the commercial side of it. You need the hobby side of it. You need the veterinary side of it, right? It's just a matter of using the right thing at the right time when you need to.
And I think what's interesting, obviously, you're in Canada, and here in the United States, a lot of younger folks, we're kind of very, very spoiled as far as we kind of come in right after like the big commercialization of the industry, the late 90s, early 2000s, and then through the ball python stuff. So we kind of have all these things in place, but is Canada any different? I mean, I'm sure the market is a little bit different, maybe, you know.
Yeah, I mean the stuff that was like when Zoomet was having it. I mean, we had the same stuff up here too, as far as the commercial companies that were active back then. Maybe not as much of the uh, smaller companies, um, but obviously the top dogs were definitely present here, um, and did shape the hobby up here too. It's just Canada is not so much that it's behind. It's a numbers game, right? It's just we just don't have the population density up here. It looks like a big country. There's not a lot of us up here, right? And it's pretty spaced out too. We don't have the hubs of the main city centers where it's the thriving communities that have that happen, right? But then you have all the spaces in between in the provinces that the sparsely populated provinces that are struggling to kind of keep a small little community going. So um, as a whole, I think it's really neat. There's some places that have evolved to be stronger, and we can learn from those communities too, right? So yeah, again, I look at it very open-mindedly. Like I said, there's nothing that's ever limiting in Canada. I think there's always room to grow too, and it's just a matter of getting the right person who's got the right passion, the right um, willingness to learn, and yeah, and that's who's gonna, people like that is what's gonna keep the wheel turning in the hobby, right? And that's what's gonna keep things growing.
Absolutely.
So backtracking a little bit, when your friend opened up his pet store, is that when you decided to focus on Kingsnakes, or was it later on?
No, Kingsnakes was actually an old passion of mine from way back already. Like I used to network with a lot of old Kingsnake guys in Florida. I don't know what it was with Kingsnakes. I can't. Sorry. Oh my god. This just give me a 20% battery warning here.
Uh-oh.
No.
I might have to relocate positions here so I can actually have this plugged in.
No problem.
But so bear with me, guys. Um, but yeah, Kingsnakes were always a long time passion of mine. I'm not sure exactly what animal started it. I did find an albino. Is this gonna work with the light back there? I had an albino kelking. It was my second snake when I started keeping snakes in Canada, and maybe that's what it was. I'm not sure exactly what to pinpoint. I it was maybe the kingsnake.com website that we were on, and I just kind of, maybe they were more immediately available. I'm not sure, but it just took off. It took off. I started networking with a lot of Kingsnake guys back then. I mean, the big name I want to mention, a shout out to, is Mark Kennedy. A lot of guys know him from Florida. Sorry, you guys, bear with me. And he was big inspiration because I used to have chats with him, and of course, just like what mentoring does, you feel the passion from the other person when you talk to someone, right? And yeah, I just got inspired by what he used to see in the wild, what he was working with back then, and with Florida Kings especially. He was working with a very early precursor to some of the flame line stuff that's working on. And he actually shipped up some stuff to me. He sent me locality Florida Miami corns back then. I had a little care package he sent up to me back when I was in middle of nowhere, Saskatchewan. When I told you I was living like 3 hours away from a main city for a good vet. But yeah, so he was definitely pivotal with the king snake thing, and I don't know, it's just a natural. It's just something about them. I want to say there's just something about them. I know exactly what about them. They're just curious animals. They're just they're just super hungry garter snakes. Just like how garter snakes seem to be really alert and visual. They're just a lot more powerful. Let's just put it that way. I mean, that's the other thing that kind of gets me going to that. The new study that came out that king snakes are the most powerful constrictors pound for pound compared to pythons even, and how their muscle striations actually help with that and stuff. So I don't know. There's so many things about them being immune to rattlesnake venom, and just seeing how they've adapted to be masters in their niche. I mean, we're talking about big animals back in the day. You're talking about 6+ foot animals, out in the wild commonly, right? Taking down, and you can see the transition even in diet from like the eastern kings further up the northeastern coast, and then when you come down to South Florida and you have the heavier bodied like cane field rat eating king snakes. I mean, like I don't know, that's all that stuff. Knowing the landscape topography, and then just the background, and then reading newspaper, scientific papers and stuff like that too. Just kind of, like they say, it's dangerous. The more you know about something, right, it just kind of sucks you into it. So, yeah, I just love them. Of course, I focus on the Gatulus complex because I like the size of them, and I think to me, they define what I like in king snakes the most. They tend to be the most ophiophagous animals compared to some of the montane species are more lizard eaters. That being said, though, Florida king snakes, I don't believe them to be as ophiophagous as eastern king snakes, purely because, like I said, they develop the taste for rodents when they move down south, and to develop the size to take them down too. But yeah, I can go on about them, and it's sheer beauty of them, man. The shield scales, right? The name themselves, like the genus name that describes them, and I've seen behaviors, guys, that I mean, not to anthropomorphize this, but when I'm introducing animals and I can see social recognition. Social recognition has been recognized in snakes already, so it's not a new thing. But I'm seeing that in my Florida king snakes. I know friends, good close friends of mine that are working with Florida kings communally, raising them up as hatchlings, females altogether, and no issues at all. I noticed males recognize female snakes because they have an insane feeding response. Anyone knows king snakes, they have a crazy feeding response. Which is why I'm trying to bring them to Canada, because everyone's going, ball pythons don't eat. I'm like, here's a king snake.
Here's something that anything and everything.
And your finger.
Exactly. All the time. And it's, yeah. And and they don't have really that much of regurgitation issues. They'll eat. They'll not that I push my animals to say that, right? But I do feed myself my snakes in a very sporadic way. There's no set sizes for adults. I do introduce variety in size and type of prey item too. But so occasionally they've taken some big items, and it's amazing what they can healthily digest, and through given the right amount of space, right amount of temperature, right temperature gradient and humidity and stuff, right? So, yeah. But you always still see to this day. I like I said, go to event I expose with my buddy there. I don't do it personally myself for Ophidiophile. Um, but I get people all the time that's like, oh, is he gonna fit that mouse inside that body, through that head, right? Kind of thing. And it's like Kingsnakes are limited in a sense because they don't have as much of a stretch as rat snakes do because they're not used to that, right? They haven't developed it as much as because obviously for the snake diet, but they can still take down a decent size, and you got a 5-6 foot king snake. You're taking down. You're feeding a medium rat. You know, I got some couple of big boys here. That funny story here. Just a side little note there. One of my big boys. I love these guys. I have a cage open. I was going to do some cage maintenance, and I had my helper there. And I was just talking with him, I was walking by, and this is how insane the feeding response is. But the awareness. And I had my hand moving up, and my arm went up, and my thumb just stuck out, just so, by the side of the cage, and it latched on, and it just sucked right in. The next thing I just went, oh, like, we have a king snake now, right? I'm like, here we go. And of course, it's my big guy. I'm like, here we go. Now this is happening. So we take him out. I was going to walk him to the sink. And as I'm walking, he just let go. And he just stopped. And he was like, all right, put him back there, right? I mean, I've noticed that they're very sensitive with the mouse, but even when biting female. Like I said, I was going back to the story about introducing females to males in the tubs. By the way, I'm very open about how I breed animals. I don't have any secrets. I'm not one of those guys like, oh, this is the way I do things. This is the way I do things. So please try it out. Like, see if it works for you. But when I introduce females to males will come up with a food response and will try to grab the females right away because they don't even focus on the eyes at that point. They just kind of go any movement, boom. I've seen snakes refuse a rat right in front of them, and a water movement, the water bowl takes their attention more and just go for it, right? It's just they don't even think. It's just like, oh, right? So and then they'll grab the female, and instantly there's a recognition. You go, they just let go, and then they stop. The food response is over. Like I can even go there and just like let them scratch them on the neck if I want to, or whatever you want to touch them like this. They've lost it. My males act a lot more calm when my females are in the tub, well, together with them. When whether they're locked or not, or whether they're even together or not. Of course, sometimes some females are not ready. You have to take them out. But when they're okay being together, there's a sense of calmness that the males seem to have. They don't seem to be in food mode as much. So I don't know. There's little things, again, like I said, I'm picking these things up as I go along to just honing in on just one species too. And that's where something I've always gone back and forth with. Do I diversify or do I focus on one thing? I'm kind of seem to be doing both.
Well, that's
because
the nice thing
there's
about
so many
kings,
king snakes.
right? I was about to say you can focus on kings, but then you can diversify within kings, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, and I do like 3/4 of my collection is Kingsnakes, and I do have a few other ones here and there too. And of course, that being said, like everyone has that. Eventually, you cut through the hobby that you're never really going to just be stuck with one animal. Even if you're a ball python keeper, I'm sure you're keeping fish at home or something. Or, I mean, you're an animal lover, right? So at the end of the day, right? So yeah, there's always a couple little other species that have caught my eye along the way. I go like, oh, maybe that one, And over the years, you try to be a lot more picky because you realize you can't keep them all. But and also you realize that there's some limitations to also how you can keep animals. As opposed to the next guy too, or limitations to your room, or limitations to your system and stuff, right? So, yeah, just kind of just go with it, kind of thing, and just see what happens. And people say, oh, what are you gonna get into, or what species you're gonna get into? I don't really plan on too much things like that. It's just kind of in the moment kind of thing. But yeah, Kingsnakes will always be my thing though.
When you first got started, so it seems like you had a lot of interactions with U.S. keepers. Was there anyone in Canada doing colubrids or king snakes in particular at the time that you could, purchase from, or that was breeding at like any number?
Like back then, when it started? Oh yeah. Actually, I should actually totally mention a big inspiration, a Canadian inspiration of mine. We jokingly call him Uncle Roy Stockwell, but most of the Canadians from back then know his name. He was a household name, Roy Stockwell. He was responsible for a line of Kenyan sandboas, actually, that's popular in the United States too, actually. a nuclear line, I believe. And he's still, I think he's still breeding a little bit, on the side here and there. But he's definitely dropped off from what he used to be. He wasn't a breeder that was always into keeping lots of animals. He's had a little bit along the way, and his expertise was just bar none because he had the experience. He was one of the few guys in the hobby back then that had the experience by just learning things by himself. That was just all those invaluable lessons, and just a great guy to boot, right? So he was always available and always reached out, and yeah, he was definitely an inspiration, and he would have a lot of clutches. Like I said, back then it was more like, oh, you heard about someone having a clutch and like, hey, and then you message them and then get to know them, and then you actually kind of develop friendships along the way, and then next thing you know, you're basically selling to friends over the years, and that's the way I look at it too. Even now, with the customers I have and people I deal with and stuff, I try to keep that approach too. I always keep myself approachable because of that, because what I was taught, the opportunities I was given from Mr. Stockwell too, right? So yeah, Roy was definitely one of them, and another breeder that was actually closer to where I used to live, because I didn't get animals from Roy as often because shipping was still a factor back then. But uh, there was a breeder in Calgary too, Mark Isbell, that's his name, and he was a big colubrid guy too, and he was into Kingsnakes, and he had indigos and corn snakes and stuff like that too, right? So he was another guy I always kind of used to pick his brain from and learn about things, or like once in a while like drive out for spring expos and stuff and visit his collection and get to see all the things that I could keep, or like I'll put my name on this clutch or put my name on that clutch kind of thing, or this animal. So yeah, there are definitely a few key people that were definitely influential in shaping the hobby back then, and to various people, of course, like geographically across Canada, right? There were obviously, I'm sure, Ontario. Roy Stockwell was a big inspiration out there. I'm sure there's other names that I probably missed being out west for most part of my life in Canada. But yeah, there were key people, and it was pretty much that. It was just down to the few stewards of the hobby that kind of kept that flame going, and kept inspiring people, right? So
in a sense, though, it's kind of weird that you may have just a few people in mind, because I mean, really, that's throughout the hobby. Even in the United States, there's like, especially with a species, there's usually only really 2 to 3 guys who work with them. And
yeah, it's true.
So it's and those guys, the fact that they're open is what allows the community to thrive, and that's such a big deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like we need to continue to carry that on. If we have the knowledge, we have to do our best to, carry it on as good as we can.
Yeah. That's why I always kind of, every time I've gone into a corner doing what I do and trying to figure out what I have to do next, I always go back to like, well, when someone else offered me that situation, like same thing like with payment plans and things like that. I'm just like, yeah, let's work something out. Like, I have a standard when I do, but over the years I've developed, but just kind of extend the same, courtesies that you're given, as a human being as you grow up, and especially as a hobby. That I think is what's going to really keep us grounded and keeping it real for a lot of us in this hobby. So yeah.
So let's get into some king snake specifics.
Well, I wanted to ask, how big is your collection currently?
I don't have exact numbers. I don't keep track of numbers, but I'm going to say about my core collection is probably sitting about between 150 to 200 animals, somewhere around, I'll say 180 animals. And then of course there's always a few grow ups that I'm raising up also for the next projects, right? So along the way, I have a small group of those, and then of course in a couple of months when baby season happens, then it triples, or sorry, not triple. Who am I kidding? It triples. Yeah. So yeah, that's where my main breeders are about 160 breeders, and that's probably 30, 40. So
it's enough to keep your hands full, I think.
Yeah, and then I'm also like I'm responsible for when I work at my buddy's place, Tyrone, for his collection too. That we also have a collection we breed to look after and stuff. And he's probably have a little bit more animals than I do too, right? So, and he's got pythons and stuff too, so it works with. And he's also a wholesaler retailer, so we also have on the other side of it, we actually have other reptiles that I deal with and stuff. So it's really great, man. I mean, like I took the plunge a couple of years ago to make this life, and I haven't regretted it ever since. It's amazing journey of discovery. And that's the thing. I know a lot of people don't get this opportunity, or sometimes life doesn't offer the chance to just do it. And that's why I want to share this with people. And I'm like, hey man, this is awesome. This is what is happening through me. And of course, with the age of the internet, everyone's wanting to peer into your lives, and social media has a weird way of things, right? But I don't mind sharing this. This is something that needs to be shared. I think this is something that I think anyone who has an opportunity. It's not about like, oh, I have the information in it. There's no ego in this, guys. It's just about really sharing the passion, and to enrich someone else's experience with the animal.
And I think what should be said is the fact that so many people want to be in that exact position that you're in. I mean, you're working for a feeder company. You have a large collection. You're breeding animals. I mean, most of the people
get to keep animals not at your house that you still like
right? Yeah, isn't that awesome?
So like you
don't have to have a tortoise myself. I just think sorry.
Yeah, like you are living a life dedicated to this hobby in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's undeniable. I mean, I can't hide it. It's
and anyone who's successful is doing that, because that's really the only way to be successful, at least business wise, if you're going to do it for a living.
Yeah, you just have to. I mean, it took time to get to this point to make the plans. I mean, it was not completely rash. There were situations that I did work my collection up to the point to actually get to being able to be self-sustaining, and then and that takes a lot too, guys. But again, everyone knows there's no surefire formula that works to everything, right? But so it takes years to tweak that, and then that's when I felt confident in my abilities. To take the plunge and try to push it to the point where I could go like, okay, I think I'm ready to step off here and just kind of like take the time off. And of course, I mean, the money is definitely not there, right? I mean, it's still a work in progress, kind of thing. And I did give up a well-paying job to do this too, but there's a trade-off and everything, and I don't mind that at all, guys. But at least I have this to help me out with that if I need to. So, just touching on the financial part of it a little bit, right? Just being realistic about it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. It's always a balance between, okay, my passion, yes, but also got to pay the bills. It's, you got to balance that.
Adulting sucks, but we all got to do it,
Right. So, so you started with the breeder business with your friend, or you came on after?
No. He's been in that for a while. That's a 10-year business. Actually, we actually celebrated 10 years last year. It's actually kind of a close enough community that, funny story, the business was actually existing 10 years prior to him, the feeder business, just feeders. And I used to buy my feeders from that business when I used to live in the area. And then I didn't realize he had bought that and took that over. And then he also opened up a pet store. And that's, like I said, I found out about the pet store, the specialty pet store. And that's when I got reconnected with him, right? But I'm not working for it. The pet store has now been, someone else has taken over with it and has been, is doing really great with it. But we're back now with the main feeder business that is now branching out with both of us working together. We're branching out with the reptiles more. And yeah, it's like, again, it's about staying dynamic, not just pigeonholing yourself into something, just kind of go with the flow, be honest with yourself, what you want to work with, what you're willing to work with. Again, always, I must say in a very worrisome way about keeping the passion, guys, because we've seen it, and I've seen it too over the years, what happens when people lose passion. First thing, the animals suffer, right? Care sometimes go down, and they're not treated the same way, and they're just being passed off as disposable commodities now, because just get them out of here kind of attitude, or blow them out prices, or, and it's just that I feel like it's the lifeblood of the hobby that needs to still keep pulsing, is the passion.
And I want to, because I think I know who Tyrone is, but I want to mention him because we had the schedule, guys.
Can we have this conversation with Tyrone? I don't know. Hang on. Maybe I should. Hang on 1 second, guys.
See here?
Just gotta. You guys have. Give me 1 second, okay?
Yeah.
When he comes back, I want to ask him about.
All right, I gotta pick my kid up from gymnastics later. I just want to check that. No, it's Tyrone Smith is. I mean, everyone knows him now because he's on TV now, national TV. That's who you're talking about, right?
Yeah. So we had Greg and Chris on, and then Tyrone is on the show as well.
Yes, yeah. They with the Scale Show that season 1 last year. So yeah, did really great, and they're trying to push together the second season here, guys. So like, come on, push! I don't know what the avenues are, where it is, but go to Animal Planet. It's an Animal Planet show, and try to promote it or watch the show where you can online, I think, and stuff, and try to get the ratings up, I guess, because that's why they're trying to get the season 2 going, because they're really passionate about that. But yeah, Tyrone and Greg, they kind of through the business, they're working together in the same area, kind of thing too. We're in a different city from Greg, but just still close friends. And Tyrone's worked with Greg for years, over the years, right? So it was just kind of natural thing that happened, with that show too. So yeah, really, really stoked for those guys with that.
Yeah, all you Canadian dudes must know each other.
Right? That's what I'm telling you. It's small enough. Like, it's like, yeah.
Even though
it's like, hey, man,
big,
just knock on the door.
Know each other.
Right.
Sorry?
Even though Canada is so big, it seems like somehow you guys all know each other.
Yeah, I mean, because of that, right? You kind of stick together more because there's not many of us, it's funny. I see that in the same thing because I've been a metalhead, and again, it's one of those things. It's an acquired taste, right? So you're not gonna have everyone appreciating the same taste of music of yours. So it's the same kind of mentality with the Reptile. Not everyone. There's still the creepy crawly phase. There's still that whole. There's a little bit defensiveness that we seem to have still with this, with our love for the oddball stuff, So
yeah, and
we have a lot of metalhead snake.
It's a lot of crossover.
There's a lot of crossover.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I know. And I've even tried to figure out psychologically to even figure out why there's a need for some people, why they prefer non-furred animals over furred pets. And I don't know. It's just I find it to be people that seem to not need a bond with the animal, but just to be able to observe an animal, and that's a curiosity. And anyone that has a curiosity to nature or to life seems to really favor these things. And I've seen it with people who are even afraid. When I'm talking about people who actually straight up phobia, they're still curious, guys. I mean, I've seen them in expos, and I've had tables of rows of scorpions in front of me. For example, this show we lucked out and got a batch of emperor scorpions. And then you should see the look in some of these families that are coming in there, but they're still curious. They're asking questions. They're like, "Wow, why is it moving like that?" And they're like, "Whoa, I can't imagine." They still have that apprehension in there, but that curiosity is what it is, right? So yeah, it's really cool. It's I don't know. Maybe I overanalyze a lot of things too, but again, like I said, when this is life, it becomes part of you, right? So
yeah, it definitely makes you think because it affects whether it's your business or just trying to, in a way, we're trying to figure out like who reptile people are because we're selling animals to them, or we're trying to get new people in the hobby, or
your market, right?
Find prospect people.
Research.
Yeah, we got to know our market. And I hate to make it seem like a business thing because it's really not. We're also just like naturally curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Being naturally curious too.
But speaking about like one of the business part of it, one of our biggest things has been feeders. So obviously, first of all, I'm wondering how you got feeders while you were in Saskatchewan, and then also how you go about it now with taking care of rodents and whatnot.
Right. So I'm not based in Saskatchewan now. I'm in Alberta, in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And when I used to live in Saskatchewan, basically I was just across the border. I was just an hour and a half away from Medicine Hat in Saskatchewan, in rural Saskatchewan. But I didn't have a vet here at the time, and that's why I had to go use a Saskatchewan vet. But yeah, I used to come to the Medicine Hat for groceries once in a while. So there's still travel, and because of the band, I was in the band before too, and I ended up being based out of here too. So there's a lot of back and forth, and yeah, I just picked up rodents whenever I came to town, kind of thing, back then, right? And then when I did move here finally, yeah, it was just kind of lucked out. I mean, I'm really lucky to actually have that on hand, that easily. Like, and I feel really bad when I see guys, talk about, feeders and prices and availability and things like that too. I mean, of course, we deal with availability issues too. You know, that's just part of that whole business and trade, supply and demand, right? But it's definitely something I'm not unaware of, that I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to actually work alongside with someone who's a feeder business.
What is it going to take to finally balance out that availability thing? I feel like across the board, at least in all of US, there's the rat.
Finding small rats during
is a
fall python breeding season.
So everyone knows that that's a hole in the, like that's a deficient.
Yeah.
Why isn't someone? I mean, I maybe very naive.
Well, because not many people want to care for rats, I suppose.
I don't know.
No. I mean, even with the big producers, like the big producers in the States, I don't think it's because it changes throughout the year, because there's never really a boom. There's not a consistent amount that is needed throughout a year even from the hobbyists, right? Because of course it's breeding cycle, and of course you have like the python breeding cycle and the colubrid breeding cycle, because then in the springtime you're like, oh my god, we need pinkies, all these, or summertime people start stocking up on all these pinkies because you got colubrid pinkies coming in, and stuff. So. And then, of course, boa breeders and python breeders are, needing all these large rats when they're feeding females. So there's a lot of changes that seem to happen and I mean, I don't know that if a lot of these companies are accommodating that. And I think that's where it seems to kind of hit and miss. You can almost tell it's going to be a busy season. And I don't know whether production and stuff like that. There's also things that happen, guys, like there's illnesses, they go through a rodent collection that could, right now, boom, you're not going to be able to supply those guys, right? So there's a lot of variables that can happen within the business too. And the thing is, like last summer, for example, it was heat. It was sheer heat. A lot of these growers actually got impacted heavily. We saw a reduction in mice supply last year, I think, with most of these growers because of the temperature. So, there's lots of variables that happen yearly, I think. And I don't think that's something that we can ever hone in on and say like, oh, we're always going to. I think it's just always going to keep growing. Maybe we'll get to a point of where there's going to be more supply, but then, of course, what happens when that happens, and it just goes back down and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it's just kind of because it's always dynamic. Like I said, that's why I've kind of, instead of us fighting the wave, I'm just kind of riding it now. Be more aware of what happens, and yeah.
Right. Do you guys do like a lot of the big feeder sources here? Do you guys ship throughout Canada?
Yeah, we ship coast to coast, from east coast to west coast, to the north. We send stuff up to Yellowknife and care packages to some hobbyists up there too. Yeah, it's been a struggle to try to use the right company along the way, to the right courier that can look after the perishable items that we ship. Of course, winter shipping is great for us up here for frozen rodents, right? So there's no worries there. But summers can really be a hassle, right? That we fight with. So because of where we're located, we're still kind of an arid climate, so we do hit temperatures pretty high. So we can get like 30, 35 degree temperatures, just like it does down not in the extremes of Texas and California and stuff.
All the Americans are trying to do math in their head, trying to figure out what the hell 35 degrees is.
So, I see. I cheat. I go on Google now. I have an app for that. So
we used to have it up. We used to have it up all the time. But...
Oh, actually, I had a little cheat sheet up here for a while there too, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Quick search. I'm sure you guys can figure that out. But it's hot. It gets pretty hot.
95. It's 95.
There you go. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it gets pretty challenging, especially because there's keepers everywhere. Main city centers are going to be quicker to ship to. There's going to be rural areas that are going to be harder to service or reach in time. So those are the things we kind of keep in consideration when we're dealing with customers on case by case basis, depending on the size of the order and stuff, right? So yeah, there's lots cool stuff about it. It's really neat being on both sides of it. So yeah, a lot of variables that happen, and of course in the U.S. has its own set of issues too with the states. Your temperature, you guys have just by FedEx shutting down from tornado season, right? Things like that can happen too. So yeah, like I said, instead of just going to roll with the punches.
So do you not have a consistent shipping company like Ship Your Reptiles like we have here that you work with?
We have developed in the last few years here. We actually have a company that I've worked with very closely as much as possible, Reptile Express, that has now developed to do a lot of international shipments now, and they've actually starting to get really regular US. And they've helped the hobby lots, especially in the last couple of years, because they've opened up the borders to Canadians accessing things a lot easier from elsewhere. There's a certain aspect of it that goes where, there's hobbyists here going like, well, what about us breeders here? Why are you importing from somewhere else when you can get it homegrown, right? But that you can't really do much about that. If people are going to go where they want to go and to get animals from who they want to get. I'm very specific with breeders that I work with, so sometimes I'd rather ship and pay import fees.
Uh-oh. They'll be back in a second.
Take off in the next 5 minutes here.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick my kid up from gymnastics here, but sorry, what was I saying? That was a phone call that came in there.
You're just talking about breeders.
How Reptile Express has kind of opened up.
Right, Reptile Express, yeah. They've started doing monthly imports and exports to the U.S. now. They've been doing a lot of Europe imports too coming in. So the hobby is really starting to grow. I'm trying to start to see a lot of people being exposed to more animals now. Now people are wondering, oh, what is that now? I can get this now. So we're starting to set people back up again. That's what's happening here. Some of us are already set up. Like I do my own imports myself, but of course, I started later back then. But they've really opened the doors up to really get the hobby thriving and getting all these people who normally wouldn't have access to things or couldn't access wholesale lists or import lists and things like that. They've really brought that closer. There's also a couple of key people here in Canada, like Dominic and Nelson, that work together to bring a lot of imports in from Guyana, from Africa, from Indo and stuff like that. So, there are gears in the community that are very, very important, and these key players are definitely important in every community. Reptile Express is definitely one of them. There's also another company that actually started up recently that it's called Reptile Runner. A friend of mine opened that up too, and it's just starting to pick up on its own. It's got it's using the same platform too. We all use FedEx as the same platform, but they're also starting to pick up as a business also. So we'll see where that goes with that too, right? So it's growing, and I love where it's going. So we'll see.
And the more competition, the better, pretty much, especially for shipping prices. I mean, it's just going to drive the price down.
It's just what happens, guys. I mean, there's always everyone wants a monopoly on things, but you only have a monopoly for so long, and eventually someone's going to come along and oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to do it too, right? It is how it is. But that's again, like you said, competition is healthy. Competition is what makes us better as people, as human, and take it in stride, go with it, and learn from it, and see what you can do.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Vanan. Last question: if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way they can get in touch with you?
I like to get everyone to my Canadian Ophidiophile page because it's just easier for me to organize everyone in there to answer questions in there. My personal profile is starting to open up a little bit more too, and that's fine on Facebook. I'm on Instagram also, so I guess message me on there too. And that's why those are the three main social media stuff I use: Facebook pages and my personal profile and Instagram. I'm not working on a website currently yet. Don't really have a need for it yet, but when the need comes, maybe that'll be a way too. So, and I have email CanadianOphidiophile@gmail.com. If you're not sure how that's spelled, look it up. Sorry. I typo it all the time, dude. Every time I have to type that, I'm like, why do I not create it? Why did I not create it? You probably don't want to hear, but yeah, it's a mouthful.
Well, we're Port City Pythons and don't have any pythons really, so
yeah.
It happens.
It's all
But
good, man. Yeah.
but I feel like we didn't even like get into a quarter of it. So guys, please check out. He has.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My kids in denial. I got to pick up from
Oh,
his
you're good.
house here too.
He has
Realize.
awesome Goinai, Speckleds, Florida King, some old world
Okay,
rat
we'll just have to
snakes.
do another one in another time, I guess.
Yes, yes.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll have to have you bring on Tyrone and do both of you guys. Would you be
Hey,
down?
that would be cool. Yeah, that would be neat. We could do something like that.
All right, cool. So we're gonna stick around for just a little bit and do
A little bit of housekeeping things.
basically.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks so much for being on again.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for having me, and all the best. See you next
Of course,
time.
man. Have a good one. So, as far as we go, well, first of all, it was nice talking to Vanan and kind of hearing a bunch of how Canada kind of came up in a sense as far as
I
the
love
hobby goes.
learning about other places. I wanted
America's
to ask
hat.
even more. America's hat. That's a new one. Never heard that before. Okay, but I love learning about not new places, but how things work in different places and everything. And so it's always fun.
And it is kind of funny because obviously Canada isn't like totally foreign. It's the same, but it's as far as the hobby goes.
But still in a lot of
it's
ways,
so different.
Tim talking about the fact that like king snakes aren't everywhere is so weird to me because you can find a king snake anywhere here. You can
find a king snake in your backyard.
But go on any website and there's a million king snakes for sale. And so it's so interesting that he's saying like, I don't know why it's right there in my head.
But it's also nice because it gives it a next level of respect as far as, sometimes when things are too common, they aren't held in as high regard, which has obviously reflected in the market previously on colubrids and stuff like that. But, I kind of wish I was into exotic snakes because people would probably care more. But yeah, either way, he has some awesome snakes. So please go check out his page. But as far as we go, this season has been pretty crazy, man.
Has it?
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you think?
With the Kings, that was a big change. But
yeah, and we made that move fast, I feel like, which we kind of, I don't know, I felt like we had to after. And, we had a bunch of females, but it was just such a ragtag group. And we kind of, because we kind of just put it together last minute. And I don't think that's how you should do projects. And I know that, but I don't know, but I still, we still did it. It didn't seem that way in a sense while it was going on, but at the end of the day.
Something we could talk about. So you and I have been kind of playing around the idea of like double clutching. And that's something in previous years we've never purposely tried. Did it even happen last year with any of them? Yeah,
so I have an idea of who double clutched and who didn't. So at the end of the day, at least my ideas on it this year, it may change next year, I don't know. But my ideas on it right now are that they double clutched last year. And for the females who are producing more, for the most part, most of our females are producing more eggs than last year, which means they're growing, they're maturing. That's what I want to happen. And now some of those females also double clutched last year. So they increased the size of their first clutch. So now I'm like, they're probably definitely going to have that double clutch no matter what I do. And keep in mind that double clutch will happen automatically for some of them. So they'll just pass infertile. Sometimes even fertile, they can retain sperm. And last year we got fertile eggs from Mother McDonald on that second one.
Just one.
Yeah. So she laid one. She laid a couple slugs, I believe, and then just one fertile egg. And then we were moving, so I gave the egg to Austin. And then so Austin Warwick of Ragebeard Reptiles hatched out a fire tessera. Just out of one egg, he got a fire tessera, which is pretty cool. So
you think it's going to happen no matter what? So do we actively try?
So it's like, why not have her pass fertiles? You might as well. And
so what's the kind of game plan with that? Like how long after corn snake lays should you wait?
I probably should be more on top of it than I mean, like I said, I don't usually go for it.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. We're trying this year, so
maybe I should probably put them together now. But it's so weird, man. I wanted to get up to normal size before I start putting them with a male. I feel like
to get back to their
right. But some of them lay and look great,
back, right?
Yeah, or bounce back really quick. Some of them lay, and you're like, yeah, and you just got to keep an eye on those. And those are usually not the ones that double clutch last year. Like the ones that are increasing clutch size, the ones that are double clutch are usually females that have a good amount of size on them. Right. But I also don't want all of my females to be overweight. So that's kind of the line that we're treading all the time, trying to feel it out, being, what's a healthy cycle? What's a healthy ramp up? So say in 3 years that female is ready to go. She lays 8 eggs, and then next year she lays 11 eggs, and then the next year she lays 13, and then she lays 16. Like, I don't mind that happening in a nice progression, even though we could have fed more often, and that third year we probably could have gotten 14 eggs. But instead we're taking it slow. And that may be stupid for some people. No. Some people really, I think colubrid breeders, kind of the old school mindset was, the more you put in, the more you get out, which is absolutely true. But not trying to have a puppy mill.
Well, I think we're already getting out a lot. We're nearly doubling what we had last year. So I think it's more.
That's enough.
I think
we have enough.
I think just for us, not even thinking about the snakes. I think for us, we need a natural progression of what we can handle.
Right.
And I don't even know if doubling is a natural progression, but I think we don't need to do.
In a way, it's just as much for the animal as it is for us to adjust to.
But then at the same time, I'm so conflicted because it's funny because you're like the ones who laid the smaller clutch are probably not going to be the ones who double clutch. But the ones who laid the smaller clutch are the ones I want to double clutch. So specifically, if you guys don't know, our Miami Okatee.
She actually double clutched last year. She is a weird exception.
But they were all slugs.
Yes. But she is she's tiny, but she's thick.
But she's always late. She's always behind everyone else and everything. But so if you don't know, we repeated our Miami Okatee to our reverse Okatee pairing. And I think last year we got 9 eggs, either 9 or 8.
Yeah, 9.
And this year we only got 7. And just thinking about 7, it's not that low, but the issue, my desire for double clutching is because of the variety in this clutch. A couple people have been asking us lately, oh, do you have pictures of the babies? And it's so funny when we send them 6 different pictures, so many different things come out of that clutch, and it's that's why I want to. And
it's not even anything crazy. She is het snow, he is het snow, reverse Okatee, which is going to be a male, het for anery, and then she is the Miami Okatee, het for snow, anery, a male. So therefore,
we produce snows, reverse Okatees. What else?
And aneries, but
and then one more.
But also, just normals.
Just normals, right?
But they're all kind of in their own way different than your normal snow, than your normal anery, than your normal that Miami blood, and then also that high red reverse Okatee has red factor in it. So it makes the babies really confusing of what exactly is always in them. But I can tell you that they're different looking snows. They're different looking, like the anery, the gray portion is going to be a little bit lighter, and the dark saddle patterns are going to be a little bit darker. And to me, I mean, I couldn't ask for anything more from that clutch on every level.
Right. And even though we love the reverse Okatees out of there, we love the snows, but I think what we really, really were into was the aneries. And so when you think, okay, there's 4 possibilities of what can pop out, and she only has 7 eggs, there's a chance that we get no aneries.
And last year we only got 1 anery. Luckily we got a pair of snows, which is excellent. Male, female, straight up 1 pair. And then we got 4 normals or so, and 2 of those normals were a pair that I held back. And then 2 reverse Okatees. Someone's probably doing the math you said 9. So maybe there was 9, because then 2 reverse Okatees and then another normal. I don't know, but they were just all really, really cool looking and not for the reason we expected. And therefore, I'm excited about what we can do in the future. And so those snows, I think, are going to be super underrated.
But that's why I want to double clutch her, because there's a chance we don't get those.
The Miami, usually the background color it makes it lighter. So therefore the red factor in the snows that usually makes it pink, for whatever reason, is only really making the saddle pattern very, very pink. And the foreground, like background color, I guess you would call it, is staying pretty white. So I want to see kind of how this plays over time. And
same with the aneries. Are they going to keep that dark? Is that dark color going to stay that dark over time? Is it going to lighten up?
It's Okati, which means that the border pattern is more enhanced, is wider and thicker. Mm-hmm. Therefore, if we thicken that border pattern, and that border pattern's always pitch black.
Right.
So we can have an anery that it's not black and gray because it's an anery. It's black and gray because the border pattern in the anery is so intense that it's so thick that it's covering the whole saddle.
Right.
So therefore, like, you're getting a true black from that animal instead of the regular anery that may fade out over time. That pattern, that outline of the pattern there is never going to fade away. It's going to be black. It's never going to age out. Nothing's ever going to happen to it. So if we can keep that true black and expand it, thicken those borders, then you're going to get more black in those animals, and then more Miami influence, more gray, a lighter coloration. And
so do you want to try?
I hope that makes sense to everyone.
Yeah. So do you want to try to double clutch her? Or do you think because she's that weird, she's that weirdo, she's weird, small, she's always like, like, I'm so scared we're gonna get like 6 normals in one snow. And
in a way,
I'm gonna be
normals
so
are
sad.
cool too.
No. Yes, but no. Yes, normals are cool, but that's not what I want out of that.
I didn't keep back any reverse Okatis, and the reverse Okatis are awesome looking. So now it's like, do I have to keep back a reverse Okati, or do I wait until I'm able to produce more in, because I held back.
If you double clutch her, then you can, and still. Yeah. See, I think we should.
It's just hard because her body structure looks good, so I may try it. Just because her body structure looks good, even though the numbers aren't up to par, all that stuff. But she did double clutch. I don't know. She's just different. So even if she may throw 2 eggs. So I think she does everything normally, just on a low level, because she's a naturally small snake for whatever reason. And all of her babies, kind of like Vanan kind of was talking about how he has a corn snake that were all the blood red, they're head butters.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a ghost clutch. All the ghosts, every single baby from that clutch was flighty, not bitey, just very, very flighty, and hasn't calmed down. And that's consistent with the ones I held back and the ones that I gave to customers, 100% across the board. That's their personality for whatever reason. And then I have this Okati clutch where they're all just demons, like the S-ing up, posing for you, ready to strike at you at all times. And I have to slowly open the baby tubs because they will spring out of them.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a trait. The mother has that trait and the babies have that trait. So there's definitely something going on there.
I don't know.
There's something inheritable. And then it's weird because I wonder if this year, if the ghosts, some of them will be chilled, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's a temperature thing. Maybe that's a certain condition that made them that way. Or if this pair will consistently create flighty babies, we'll see.
Right.
But it's something to think about.
So right now, we're just kind of looking at, their body structure and everything and seeing, okay, are they ready to handle something, another clutch and everything?
Right. And that is going to be, I don't have much experience with that, so I'm just going to play it kind of by ear, by observing what's going on and keeping, being cautious. I'm always just super, super cautious with that, but I figure if they're going to do it anyway, like Mother McDonald, she's going to go. She's a big girl. And
I think knowing that they didn't, obviously if they had, 4 slugs, we're not going to try to double clutch because something obviously, was going on. But we only had 1 slug in all of our clutches so far. And so I feel pretty confident to double clutch it. But it's just something new for us. And we didn't feel the need last year. And it's not like we feel the need this year. Just we know that there's some interesting, cool things that can pop out. And I know there's a lot of interest in them. And I kind of feel like the guilt as
you always want to squeeze all the juice out.
No, but I kind of feel guilty as a breeder sometimes, knowing that there's these people who like got on a wait list and who really, really are interested in it. And when I have the opportunity to provide that for them without hurting the animal, I feel like, I don't know, I feel guilty if I don't do that to make these people wait for a whole year.
And I mean, it sounds bad, but at the end of the day, our advantage is the fact that we have a unique pair of animals that people want, and that's amazing. And part of what's going to maintain that, you know, in the marketplace is the fact that we don't have unlimited supply. So that
saturate it, right?
Yeah. So it's like it's both a good and a bad thing, and we will be getting more and more in the future, but I'll also be highlighting the project more and more. So hopefully over time, you know, even more people get interested and even more people start producing. Once people see that adult reverse Ogati that Mike Kosicki has, you know, that looks kind of like the reverse Ogati on the cover of Kathy Love's Corn Snake book, which I think is like the quintessential reverse Ogati. And it's not like the most fluorescent one. It's not crazy, but it's like very quintessential, and I love it. So he sent me one like a few months ago, but we'll have to see. Well, we need to get one in like a year or so.
We need some baby updates.
Yeah. And
Ryan Cox said he wants to see an Anery Tessera. I don't know why I said that so weird. Anery Tessera with Ogati. I can't talk.
You act like we never say Tessera when everything in our collections has Tessera.
My reading isn't working well. Anery Tessera with Ogati influence. There you
go. So we do have Ogati Tessera stuff, and we do have Anery Tessera stuff. So what we have going on this year, which should be interesting, is we have our Anery Red Factor Tessera. And that animal is super dark. So that should hopefully satisfy a little bit of our dark urge. But if we can, that sounds weird. But imagine this. We have that reverse, you know, that Ogati pairing. We have an Anery from that pairing. We raise up a male. We bring it back to that Red Factor Anery Tessera.
And then we make the Anery Tessera.
And then you're throwing some crazy stuff, right? But, I mean, if I wanted to go that way, that's the way I would do it. But that would be in due time. So we gotta perfect the simple stuff first before we go on, I suppose. But that's something that we have potential to do in the future. But it's nothing that I've thought too much about because, honestly, Tessera, it doesn't take much thickening of the border pattern to make an impact. Just because the pattern's so busy, therefore, you know, there's some thin pattern. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but it makes it easily overcome with those border patterns. So, I mean, it's not a stretch. It would be something that we can do in the future, but we don't have enough founder stock of the Miami stuff in order to make it possible. We need to build out each project, which then brings you to the point is like, how many snakes are we going to have to keep? Because just by necessity of moving on our projects, we have to keep more and more. It's just
that's why you sell it to friends. the ones you really, really like, you sell them to friends. So we have the opportunity to work with them later. Because at the end of the day, we only have a certain amount of space here. So that's the benefit of having friends.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have a surprising amount of space, you know, we do have that whole table set, you know, all that stuff. We do have space, to be honest, but we're talking about our second year of you know, almost 100 babies or so. So this is just a second year, man. What happens 5 years? What happens 6 years? You know, so
in a house.
It's only compounding. Therefore, there doesn't seem to be an end to this. But
there is. You just stop.
Yeah.
At some point, You cap it.
I think what we have to do is stop buying new snakes, which is what we always say.
That's already said.
Yeah.
And we know I don't have to worry about that except for one. It's you. Speaking of that, I'm going to keep saying this till I wish it into existence. I am still on the hunt for a goini with a perfect stripe.
You know who has one?
So if you...
Vanan has exactly the quintessential one that you want.
What?
The exact phenotype.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is it producing them?
I don't know, but I would feel like a giant trader if I bought a Canadian goini. But
I can't find one. So, I mean...
Yeah.
But if you go on Evergreen Reptiles page, they have one exactly like I want to. We're still doing that. Dylan said move back to Texas, more room. That is very true.
That is true. Unfortunately, the one downfall of being in the Northeast, besides temperature with snakes, is certainly the space. But
unless we move out to the sticks.
Yeah, we got to move out from the city. We try to do something that's not very common in the snake world, which is maintain a collection in a major metropolitan area, which isn't the easiest thing to do, but we can make it work at this size now. If we were trying to be professional breeders just breeding snakes, not a shot.
We would have to move out for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess this can go for anyone else who's thinking of doing this in business, in the snake world, the snake business. You know, you want to model people. I know that the fact Eugene Bissett set a precedent by going to the Gainesville area, or I believe he's an Archer to be specific, but he set his operation up on what was technically agricultural land. So you're seeing this more as a farm, and therefore you're getting different tax breaks. You're getting different incentives in order to help you along. So that's really the right way to do it. And I wouldn't be the person to talk about that with, because obviously I haven't done it. But most professional breeders are set up that way. And that seems like a very fiscally responsible and very smart way to do it. And therefore, in order to get your zoned agricultural land, you're probably not going to be in West Philadelphia or something.
Or in Maze.
You know, it's just something that, and that's kind of something you need to accept as a snake person at some point. If you're going to let this get out of the hand, you gotta
sacrifices for the snake world.
Yeah, and you better get your rodents right.
Any other hobby that has the same amount of sacrifices?
I think that that's something that you can see across most things that most people do to this level. So, I mean,
not
even
knitting.
I'm sure there's some weird knitters out there.
I'm trying to think of another hobby that takes that amount.
Well, you know, think about, say, a comedian or something. They're sleeping on couches. They're going to open mics for no money for 5 to 10 years just to be able to eventually eke out a living, hopefully within 10 years, and then hopefully make it by 15 to 20. Like,
that's not a hobby.
A hell of a grind there. Yeah, but I'm just saying, I mean, even if you're starting most businesses, I think people think that when you start most businesses, you put out a product and then people like jump on it and, you know, all of a sudden you're a business in 1 year. I think that's usually those are usually the outliers. You know, most of the time it's someone struggling for a large amount of time, investing all of their money back into the business for 5 years, 8 years, and then they reap the benefits later.
I'm saying not for us specifically, because obviously we want to make this business one day. But I'm talking about people who just want to keep it as a hobby. You still,
there's still a level of sacrifice.
There's still a level of sacrifice just for the hobby aspect.
Which is why you see
hunting. There you go. Ryan brought up hunting. Hunting, there's a lot of sacrifices with hunting as a hobby. Yeah, especially for the partner who's at home.
Or think about like rock climbers. Or something, like they go all around the country and sleep on couches, and that's literally their lifestyle. They like to be dirtbags. They literally call themselves dirtbags and just live on couches, surf around couches around the country and live in vans and do it. You know, they sacrifice everything to climb a damn rock, which in a way, it's commendable. And I feel like snake people kind of do the same thing. They usually give up their bedrooms in order to put more racks, more tanks, whatever the hell you can do. You make your room 80 degrees and sleep in it. I mean, stupid stuff. And I think you see a lot of guys get back into it. You know, maybe they sacrificed during their young age and then they kind of had to wise up and, you know, throughout their late 20s, 30s, you know, got good jobs or whatever. And then you see them get back into it at 40 and they go all out and they have the space and money then. So they're able to do it. So to have a person who has kept snakes throughout the whole cycle of their life is kind of rare. I can't think of too many people who have always had a good collection. Yeah, because I think whether it's like we touched on before, whether it's sick animals or something happened to your collection,
or financial, or life,
just life.
Yeah,
because if you think about it, your life needs to be like stable in order to take care of these animals because they never stop. They're always stable as far as
even though you know they're food. On a smaller level, snakes are pretty easy to keep as far as like you not have to feed them every day and
anything else,
anything else. But still, you have to be like relatively stable. I mean, I always talk all the time. I'm like, I don't know how Ian does it. Ian's traveling all the time, and
you have a good partner to help you out.
Like I said, and even with only feeding, you know, once a week, it's still hard.
You know, there's people who travel a lot or do different. I mean, and you think about just the quality of your home needs to be good too. I mean, it needs to be well insulated. You need to be able to heat and cool it, and I guess we'd be surprised with the places, you know,
that people do it
in. But in order to do it correctly, there's a certain
sacrifices.
There's a certain level of living that you have to be at, unfortunately. And that doesn't mean that you need to be wealthy. That doesn't mean that you need to have money, because we don't really have either of those things. You just need to be able to work your ass off just to feed your animals and be cool with that.
Speaking of, we do have a Patreon account. You want to support this podcast,
or just make
a sacrifice,
or send us frozen thawed pinkies in the mail. I'll be cool with that.
We have a Patreon, Theportcitypythons Patreon,
or 1,000 frozen thawed pinkies, please. Imagine that if we're gonna have like 150 babies, and that's like 150 pinky mice.
That's why we need to buy another rat rack.
That's true. So yeah, part of our plan.
Someone wants to send us a rat rack.
I hope you guys don't take this seriously. We're not asking you for stuff, but
we're just joking.
But if
but if a rat rack falls into our lap, we're not going to be sad about it.
So one of my goals for this year in our business as a whole is to have a self-sustaining collection. So I want to be able to feed my snakes with rodents that I produce. So that's kind of and that's something that now I tell people who are just getting into it. I tell them that is absolutely
that's a game changer.
That is absolutely the number one thing you need to get down if you are planning to do this
full time,
or even at a good level, you know. And I always thought all these guys were crazy for breeding their own rodents. Turns out they just know what the fuck they're doing, because man, does it save you money. Man, does it not take as much time as I would imagine it to. And plus, I gotta be honest, I kind of enjoy it. And dude, the rats now, I was petting it like a fucking dog. It was,
no, please.
The rats are very, very personable. Since there's only 2 of them, you can they'll come up to you and they want to be pet and stuff. They're kind of cool.
Stop.
They haven't produced though at all, so what the hell? And I have to say that keeping on top of them and cleaning them often, they don't smell too bad.
Oh yeah, so, didn't they say that the rats were going to take a couple months?
Yeah. So
when did we get them? Oh, I don't remember.
It kind of surprised me how long it takes rodents to kind of settle in order to get to breeding. So unfortunately, you can't just buy adult rats and mice and put them together and then they breed. There's a certain level of comfortability that they have to feel, and I'm sure someone who's much better at this would have a much better explanation of it. But from my just general observation of a small colony, ours took about 2 months. Whether it's weather, if it's too cold, they slow down production. Too hot, slow down production. But it probably took ours like 2 months or so to drop their first litter.
Mice.
Yeah,
but
the rats haven't yet, and it's probably been 2 months. So
right.
but once they get going, they get going. We had the 3 females drop at the same time, and there was like, I get to feed all of this year's holdbacks at one time with live rodents. This shit's crazy. It was amazing. And I'm like, imagine if I could do that.
I might get my freezer back to actually put food in.
Well, if we buy another freezer, because I want to start
culling them.
Yeah, because right now we don't have like CO2 or anything to cull them, so I'm just feeding live. And honestly, that live is going to help us tremendously getting babies feeding. So previously, if we had holdouts, we would try frozen thawed a few times, and then eventually try to find some way to get live pinky mice, which is always a pain in the ass, and then feeding our problem feeders. And then if they're only taking those, then we got to go back to whatever breeder's probably an hour and a half away to get live again. So it will be so nice. Even if we just had a colony big enough to help problem feeder babies, that would make my life different. That would change my life. So I think we'll at least get there.
So we
this breeding
definitely
season.
need that second rat rack by the time we have eggs.
I mean, in a perfect world.
What's keeping you from building it? Remember I showed you Dallas Ruo built his?
What's keeping me from building it is the fact that I also need to build an enclosure for the olive python. And at the moment, that should probably take priority. So it sucks,
Gotcha.
but there's always things, and there's also other things that we need to get snake-wise, or a product that I'm trying to get manufactured, and there's money that's going into that. So at this point, we're just trying to figure out how to make things work. So we've got our hands in and are so unfocused in a sense, because we can't be at this point. I'm working on the product front. I'm working on the mouse front, the rodent front, and then we're also working on the breeding front. So I can't even imagine what's going to happen when all those breeding.
Put the olive thing.
The olive is going to go right behind you.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be hard to walk in here.
Yeah, but I need a good 6-foot enclosure for the olive python.
So how far is it going to come out? Like here?
No, it's not going to come right up to our back. So what I'm planning on doing is probably like a 6x2x2 or so. I don't know. I don't have the exact plan. I'm going to figure it out later. I'm just basically following what, if you guys listened to NPR a few episodes ago, Keith McPeak had these wooden cages in which he told Owen how to build. And now I'm just, asking Owen how to build it. So basically I'm just going to follow his plans if I can. So we just really need somewhere I just really want to get the olive out of a tub, because olives are cool.
So
and
you're saying
they don't deserve to be in a tub.
No one's ever going to be able to actually sleep in here after you build that for the olive?
No, plenty of people will be able to sleep in here.
Okay.
It's also
Life
like
things.
80 degrees in here, all right? Who wants to sleep in here?
Well, Ryan Cox is going to be sleeping in here in 3 weeks.
There you go. And he's a snake. I'm sure he would love to sleep next to
I'm
an
just
olive
thinking
python.
of size-wise.
Yeah, we can throw down a bed.
Yeah,
and
Ryan,
we'll
this is going to be your room.
There you go. It is a svelte.
No,
81.
there's a fan.
Yeah, there is a fan.
The fan's really nice.
top quality
okay.
fan.
We should end this, but
Yeah.
Brandon wants to see the olive. And
Okay.
we haven't taken out a snake in a while, so.
Yeah, it's also nighttime, and she's probably a little bit hungry. So let's see what we can do.
So let's see how bad that this goes.
Well, it's more just the initial. See her head, just the way she's reacting.
She's usually like not even caring.
Her head so fast.
She's usually not even caring when we open it. Usually she stays in her little.
But once I get her up, we should be good.
We will definitely have to cut out this part for the download for the audio?
Yeah, just watch your head.
Okay.
So yeah, here's the olive python. And as you can see, she's over the length of a 41 quart tub, which is what she's currently in. So I definitely want to get her in a 6-foot cage. But she is a really, really cool, as far as temperament goes, she's a perfect snake. But like I said, getting her out is a little bit of a different story because she is hungry. Ooh. But I feel like for the download, I need to keep on talking. So.
Oh, I thought we were just going to cut this whole part out of the download.
Yeah, I guess I can do that. I don't know if I trust her right now. There you go. So yeah, Brandon, there's the olive python.
How old is she?
Almost 3. Which is
she's,
crazy.
oh my god, she's only almost 3. That's
yeah, which is at least I think that's how old she is. I don't know if she's 17 or 16. I don't really remember. I'd have to look back. But olive python, man, cool snake.
Okay.
And that's why I want to get a big enclosure so she can climb around and do whatever she does.
Do her thing.
Any
you
other?
You wouldn't want to put her in the downstairs?
Ooh. I mean, I thought you would be way against that.
I actually no, because I would rather have a place where someone can sleep.
Okay, well,
if you move out that stuff, if you erase all that shit you have in the corner in the dining room.
Right, but that's all of our shipping supplies.
Which needs to go somewhere.
So if you guys don't know, our whole house is just filled with snake stuff, whether it's shipping supplies or whether it's the actual snakes.
It's really frustrating. You gotta find places for it. And if you make all that disappear, the olive can go there.
Is that some type of bribe?
It's a trade.
A trade-off?
Trade-off.
Well,
you get what? Because I mean, in the beginning, yes, I really was like, no, I never want snakes in the living room, whatever. But we have the ATB in the living room,
and it's like a non-factor.
I don't even think about it, you know. No, granted, she's hiding, or I don't even know if it's a he or she. What is it?
Yeah, we don't know.
It's hiding most of the time, and so just when you walk in, it just looks like a plant box. Like it literally just looks like a box of plants half the time. But I forget.
Well, someone who is facing our dryer asked me if I was growing weed in it. So, which by the way, pothos.
I know nothing about growing weed, but I don't think you do it in a box like that.
Pothos and Chinese whatever snake plants or whatever the hell it is, in no way look like marijuana plants, but. Whatever, man. I don't
think you would do it in that thing.
And maybe not directly in our living room as like a centerpiece, you know, like right next to the TV. So the experts in the chat say that's not the way it's done.
I don't think so. I mean, we'll think about.
No,
California.
I've seen grow houses and stuff in Colorado.
Definitely not in an enclosure like that. But yeah, so
you do need to keep it warm like reptiles, though. So. I don't know. Maybe there's probably some good crossover.
That's funny. But yeah, I think if it's something like that where it's like I don't even think about the olive half the time. Now, as long as we don't have to keep it super hot downstairs.
Oh no.
Then
that's a cool thing about a lot of the Australian pythons is that the ambient's really not that big of a deal.
That was Dixie.
That was Dixie. So the ambient doesn't seem to be as big of a deal, you know, like a ball python. I would always prefer higher ambient, but with all the Australian stuff, I always keep the ambient room temperature, which is typically like 74 degrees and then like 86 hotspot or so. And
so I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
And then Ryan's just gonna move here, and this will be Ryan's room.
There you go, Ryan.
Then he can help you build all these things that you want to build.
We'll make we'll put up a Ryan's parking only sign. You remember every kid in their childhood house had like Melissa's parking only on their wall? You never had those?
What do you mean parking? It's a room.
I know. It was some stupid thing that like they sold kids. Yes, it would be like Joe parking only above your bed. It's some stupid stuff.
Oh, no,
no one else had those. Someone in the chat agree with me or know what I'm talking about?
I'm sure someone had it somewhere, but I didn't ever. No.
Okay, good talk. So, but yeah, so I got a lot to build. I got a lot to do.
And so support us on Patreon. I'm just joking.
And Ryan said, Joe, what kind of childhood did you have? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
That's a
Do you want to know what I really
know? Did you play Banker? What the hell?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Ryan.
Does he mean in Monopoly?
We played a lot of Manhunt. Was that a thing?
What is Manhunt?
It's like hide and go seek in the dark. We would like go out at night.
Very dangerous.
Yeah, not really, but because I mean, you got to understand where we lived. It's not like we were in a city at night. We were in our friend's backyard, which were typically big enough or had woods for us to hide around in and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought you meant like a dark room, like you turned out all the lights in it.
That's weird.
Well, that's
Who's in My Mouth. You never play that?
Excuse me?
Oh, never mind. So Manhunt.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about this later. Clearly,
that's an old Dane Cook joke, which also brings me back to my childhood.
Okay, well, it's 10 o'clock, and I'm
Boom.
sure you want to watch hockey, and I have work tomorrow, so.
That's a Catholic game? Oh, no.
Why does everyone know this game that I don't?
Thing. It happened. No, I'm not going to say anything. We're not going to isolate a whole audience if we didn't already.
I'm just going to have to look this up later. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this podcast.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those. If you made it this far,
you're on the team.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those.
I think all the people who are here right now are on the team.
Oh,
You're definitely our core group right here who keep watching and listening and always supporting us. But Theportcitypythons.com for your Springtails t-shirts and Spagnum. Is that how you say it? Spagna?
You know, I've heard it both ways. I say Spagnum, but I've heard Spagnum, and I don't know. I think it's Spagnum. As a person whose name is a PH, a Phelan,
yeah,
I gotta keep
the F sound
continuity and say Spagnum.
Okay, that sounds right. Spagnumas.
Spagnum.
And we'll eventually have babies. And we have, what else do we have? Again, our Patreon. Oh, Carpet Fest.
Oh,
we should actually say it.
I'm so sorry, Eric and Owen.
We've been talking about it. We've been talking about Ryan.
We mean
coming
to
out
say
here,
it in the beginning.
But we mean to say Carpet Fest. Hit up Eric or Owen if you want to know what to bring. There is a crawfish fund going on through Howard Redding, and there's a lobster fund going on through Nick. I always mess up his name. Scally. I always want to say Scaly.
That would be convenient, huh?
Yeah. Scaly's reptiles. How perfect would that be? Wow. ADD. But yes, come to Carpet Fest June 8th in Warminster, PA.
Boom. Everyone's invited. You don't have to keep Carpet Pythons.
I'm most excited to meet Travis Wyman. I hope he knows that when I
don't bring your animals, or else they'll be considered NIDO positive on contact. Once you pass the driveway, they're all of a sudden quarantined and shipped away. No live animals. I feel like we shouldn't have to say that because Eric and Owen say
it a lot. But maybe someone doesn't listen to NPR. Who knows? Maybe
that would be weird, huh?
That they only listen to us. No, I doubt it. Highly doubt it.
There's one colubrid guy out there, I'm sure.
Who's like, I don't want to listen to Morelia. I don't care about Morelia.
No, they probably just don't know. We just somehow got through the ether to them. They don't have internet, but they somehow came across this one day. I don't know.
Who knows?
So if you're that guy, send me a telegram or whatever. Send me an email.
This is a great outro. Yes, Thank you guys so much. We will be on next week.
Brennan had a better response. They'll be cold on site.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. See you guys next week.
Later, Gators.
Bye. Stop.